The NFL season as a whole, obviously the season has come to an end.
Right.
Um, Lamar Jackson wins the MVP.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I'm a Lamar fan, but this was a year that I thought it could have went to somebody besides a quarterback. Like I said, Lamar won it. He didn't have crazy stats. I think he finished like 15th in passing yards and 10th in touchdown passes, something to that nature. I just thought this could have been a year where no quarterback, well, it was a year where no quarterback just stood out, including Patrick Mahomes, and that it could have went to somebody like CMC. I thought it should have.
I agree. And you got some other people in the chat saying CMC should have won it.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that I guess the resume at the end of the year proves the point, though, right? I was all for giving it to Tyreek early, and then Tua later, and then Lamar, and then CMC. But I think in the end, I think they went with the right guy in Lamar because everybody else eventually got beat by that man. So if you weren't going to give it to that man, you know, give it
Well,
give it to
first of
Lamar. You
all,
know,
you're going to start losing credibilities of the show if you continuously bring up Tua and MVP in the same sentence. Okay,
man, I'm
you
sorry.
got to
He was
stop.
he was getting it. He was getting
He
it
was
in. But
not getting anything. He was
hey,
he was average at best, throwing to above average players. He stinks, and he was proven to be average with his noodle
okay.
arm.
Hey, we're all entitled to our opinion, and I think that we're going to see he's going to put up amazing stats next year. But back to your point, Lamar was probably the safe call, and it just sucks he couldn't have done more on his MVP year after getting the bag. So
Right. Now, one thing that I will admit that you got right, and I think it was just more you wanted to take the opposite side of what I said.
okay,
Defensive player of the year went
yeah,
to Myles Garrett, a man who literally did nothing the last 7 weeks of the season.
right.
7 weeks of the season, nothing compared to TJ Watt, who only led the league in sacks. Can somebody explain how that happens?
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch every game. I'm going to be honest with you. I just cannot donate my 9 hours on Sunday. But on the games I watch, he made more impact than anybody else. And I asked a buddy of mine who played in the league a while. I said, do guys at that level just know who's better? And it's still the answer is yes. And I think that you could feel he was the most impactful player out there. He is more impactful than TJ. And obviously the magician Micah Parsons, the
Oh,
disappearing act. So I think they got that one right because when he was out there, he was dominant and he drew a whole bunch of attention. Much like my man Donald from the Rams during his dominant years. So I felt it. I thought it was the right call.
well, here's the difference. Aaron Donald didn't, I mean, you felt his impact because of what he did, because of what his stats said. That's what Aaron Donald did. It wasn't, oh, Aaron Donald's on the field. He's getting all this attention. Oh, he had 8 sacks on the season. No, he had
Right.
20.
Right.
There's the difference. TJ Watt gets attention, 19 sacks, doesn't play the last game of the year because he got hurt. I mean, that's what we're talking about here as far as the difference between the two. Myles Garrett did nothing. Let me repeat that. Myles Garrett did nothing the last 7 weeks, not the last week, not the last 2 weeks, the last 7 weeks of the season. He didn't do anything. And that's the best defensive player in the league. I don't want to hear about the double teams. I don't want to hear that. We get on you get on guys,
Right.
especially offensive guys, for not making plays when they should make plays. Well, damn it, why shouldn't he make plays when he's supposed to make plays? It double teamed or not. I don't want to hear it.
Man,
Go out and make a play for your team.
I don't subscribe to the double teams and the splash plays and the getting somebody else a sack either. But I think there is a healthy balance between a guy who gets the kind of numbers he did get and makes that happen as well while being double teamed. So I mean, I think the TJ Watt argument rings a little more true for you because you're a little bit of a
Oh,
homer.
I'm biased for sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I'm also I just go by what the stats. I go by what I see. I mean,
Okay.
stats are one thing, but I go by what I see. I mean,
Well, I,
the
I
guy
think the
had
eye test.
19. He had 19 sacks. They had the same number of tackles for a loss. I think it was I can't even remember the number of tackles for loss. 4 forced fumbles, an interception, and a touchdown. What else do you want out of a defensive player of the year? If that doesn't scream defensive player of the year, what does? A
I,
guy
I
that
think.
does nothing the last 7 weeks?
Oh, come on with the nothing.
But he didn't. He did nothing. He did nothing. I think he had a total of 10 tackles in the last 7
Yeah.
weeks. That's
And
nothing.
I think Buddy's right. His D line is much better. So
Name the
T.J.
interior
Watt's.
defensive lineman the Steelers have. You can't name it, and nobody else can without Google. And I'm a
No,
Steelers fan, and neither can I.
but are they better than the Browns?
No, absolutely. The Browns had one of the best defenses in the league. The Steelers
I
did not.
I understand that. I don't think they had a better defensive line. I'm just saying that.
Okay. Let's. I mean, we can go back and forth, I guess, all day about that. I
So,
don't think there was any surprises in the Rookie of the Year. I mean, C.J. Stroud and
no.
Will Anderson, both of those guys should have won Offensive Defensive Rookies of the Year. Coach of the Year, I got a problem with, Chris. Coach
Okay.
of the Year, I got a big problem with. Look,
Okay.
Stefanski for the Browns, I get it. He was dealing with Massage Man, TJ
Right.
or of Watson
Right.
as the quarterback, Deshaun Watson. I understand that, and he was working with Flacco. And by the
Right.
time he was done, this fourth quarterback,
He
Demeco
went in.
Ryan had a horrible roster. The Texans have a
Oh,
bad roster.
they,
Bad.
they did, but they had the best position in football really, really show up. So do you want that guy who makes you a great dish, but while he had a great cut of filet sitting in the fridge, okay, he may not be a great chef. He had a great cut of filet versus the guy that went in there, had some spoiled meat, maybe a bad egg, and whipped out a great meatloaf. And that's what happened in Cleveland. He made meatloaf out of absolutely nothing. He
And
got
what did they do in Texas? What did they do in Houston? What
again,
are you talking
in
about?
in a league built around the quarterback. CJ Stroud showed out. So you got to say he rode a little bit of that wave. If your quarterback's gonna, if Cleveland has a quarterback that plays like that, don't give him Coach of the Year either. And hell, they would have won the Super Bowl, and with that defense and any quarterback playing. So I just don't think he did anything with it. I'm
Well,
not gonna.
their defense was good, but it's the same guys. I mean, it's not like they had this great roster. The coaching mattered. Let's not kid ourselves. And not to
Okay,
mention, player for player, Cleveland's got a much better roster than what the Texans do.
I'm
Much
sorry.
better.
I won my fantasy football league this year against some savvy veterans riding Nico Collins. There, tell me somebody in Cleveland produced like that. So
Amari
CJ
Cooper?
Stroud, he didn't though.
He did, actually. He had the
Well,
best year
maybe.
of his career.
Oh, stop it,
Well,
Brian.
if you just go by catches, yards, and touchdowns, it was the best year of his career. Now,
Nah.
anything else that you want to go by, fine, we can go by that.
Those
But if
weren't
you go for a wide
Those weren't
receiver,
impactful catches.
no,
Empty
if you go
stats. They
for a
were
wide
behind.
receiver and you go based on catches, yards, and touchdowns, that was the best year of his career. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah. Well, first of all, empty stats because they were probably playing
Here we
catch up.
go.
But wait a minute. So we got somebody saying Tomlin made meatloaf out of absolutely nothing again. Well, we just talked about he should have had. You can't have it both ways, David Gonzalez. Either he has your eyes the defensive player of the year, and then in my son's eyes, a great defensive line, and he still made nothing out of it. No,
Well, who
either
was
way,
his quarterback? We had Baby Hands Pickett as the quarterback for 3/4 of the season.
and
Mitchell Trubisky, who won't even be in the league next year, shouldn't have been in the league this year. He's starting games, and Mason Rudolph. That's who our quarterbacks were. So to be able to make the playoffs, how they even won 10 games, which I think you still owe me money on, but we'll let that slide. They
That's
won
different.
10 games with that as your quarterback?
Look,
Come on.
if you put all three of those guys together, their ages don't add up to Joe Flacco. Okay, Joe Flacco is 67 years old,
And he's still better than all three of them
and hadn't
combined.
played a meaningful game in 5 years.
And
So
he's
stop it.
still better than all three of them behind. Again, we got a guy that has baby hands that was our
Right.
quarterback. That's all I'm saying. Tomlin had a better case than Stefanski.
And Mr. Tucker, thank you for pointing out that the Texans play in a trash division as well. Thank you.
Well, they were also a trash team until this year. So, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, they were a trash team until this year.
We got some people that know their game out there, Brian. They're coming to my defense. I appreciate it.
Well, there's some people also don't know. I mean, but that is what it is. That is what it is. I think at that level, I mean, you're grasping at straws. I mean, obviously both did well, but I think we're grasping at straws to find out who the best is. I just think if you take a team that there isn't a person on earth that thought the Texans were going to be any good this year. Not a person on
But
earth
nobody thought they were going to have
believe
the
that.
third best quarterback in the league this year either.
Well,
That really
but
helps.
either way, there isn't a person on earth that thought they were going to be any good. And for them to not only be good to win the division and win a playoff game, that guy has got to be coach of the year, in my opinion,
Sure.
versus the guy who everybody thought Cleveland was going to be good. Everybody looked at their roster and said, oh, yeah, Cleveland may win the division. And if
Until
they
their
didn't
roster,
have Massage Man Watson as their quarterback and they had Flacco for most of the year, they probably would have won the division.
can we not forget that their all-star roster, their two on paper best players weren't playing most of the year, right? And I agree with Buddy on this one. If you're going to talk about anyone else, Detroit, even though he made some mistakes in the
Everybody thought
playoffs,
Detroit was going to be good.
yeah,
Everybody. Nobody thought they were going to
no,
be bad.
yeah,
Everybody
no.
thought they were going to be good and win that division.
And I
Everyone.
want to see where everybody was riding the Detroit wave, before then, the Jared Goff wave before then.
I'm
I
not
don't
saying
think
they were
so.
saying he was going to be great, but everybody, I mean, first of all, we talked about trash divisions. That was a trash division. And
Agreed.
everybody thought that Detroit was going to win that
I,
division and
I
be
can name
good.
five
Everybody
players on the
thought that.
Detroit team that I didn't think were going to be as good as they played this year, and that usually means it's the coach.
I
On the
mean, I
Texans,
don't know.
on
They
the
had the
Texans,
best
I can
line in
name
football,
one.
though. Detroit had the best line in football, and
And
it
as
wasn't
you know,
close.
none of those five guys are the five guys I would have named. So
Well,
there are
I
five
mean,
guys.
well, then you just got to pay more attention. I mean, but
Uh,
they had the best. They had the best right tackle in football. I mean, Penei
can we
Sewell is literally the best right tackle in football.
can we put that meatloaf comment back up? Because think about meatloaf is you guys have all had meatloaf at somebody's house that wasn't that good. Not all meatloaf is created equal. Some people use a lot more breadcrumbs. Some people use 80-20,
Oh
70-30 meat.
no,
They were making better meatloaf in Cleveland.
I think they made better meatloaf. I think they made better ribs in Houston, and he should have won. But neither here nor there. It is what it is.
That was a
And then
one star. Yeah. Go ahead.
comeback player of the year, and last thing on this topic is
Mhm.
comeback player of the year again was Flacco. Who did he play for?
I mean, hey,
No, no, no,
cooking.
no.
It's cooking.
There
And,
you go. Flat.
and
First
it
of
was
all, I didn't think that. What did he play? Like 6 games, 5
I
games?
don't even think
I
that
didn't
many. I
good
think five. I think he
Lord.
played five. But
Yeah.
the comeback, I mean, you can talk comeback from catastrophic injury, personal problems, but this is a comeback from just old age. Joe Flacco was off into the sunset and
Yeah, he
rode
was.
back. You know,
Yeah, he
he
was.
got a solid tan on his back riding back from the sunset, into the huddle. I mean, the guy
Yeah.
is my age, got more salt and pepper in his beard than I do.
I
So,
thought it should have been Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was left for the scrap heap by 3 different franchises and came back and led his team to not only a division title, a playoff win. I just think, and he played well. He played well.
yeah, I
I
can't
just
do it.
thought it should have been Baker Mayfield.
I'm just not the right guy to comment on Baker Mayfield. He broke my heart too many times in Cleveland. He's a nut job. He's a head case. I can't go Baker. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Also, what is he coming back from? You can't come back from self-imposed stupid decisions. You can come back from injury, personal tragedy, old age. You can't say I'm coming back. I'm not going to throw any picks anymore. And that's not a comeback player.
well, he
You
got
were the one
thrown in
out
the
there.
scrap heap from 3 different teams. And one, he had led to the playoff the year before, played with a broken shoulder. The Browns just said, we'd rather go with
Yeah,
Massage Watson. We'd
yeah.
rather go with
And
Massage Watson.
and anytime we have extra time on this, Massage Watson is guilty of the greatest heist in NFL history.
Oh my
And I fell
God.
for it too. I fell for
Jiminy
it. I thought,
Christmas. I mean, that's obviously that's another topic for another time. But you talk about a guy who just said he first of all he forgot how to play football, but just stealing money. Just
right.
stealing money. Unbelievable.